Welcome, viewers. My name is James Floyd Kelly. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 7 of Novel Ideas. I am here with my good friend, Eric Wex. Hello, Eric.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm good. We were talking earlier, you and I. You're in the upper West Coast. I'm in Atlanta. We're rainy and cold today, and you guys are experiencing, like, springtime weather, right?
You know that bad Disney movie from the 70s, Freaky Friday?
Yes.
That's all we've done. We've switched winters. We're just having each other's winters. It's awesome here. 60 and sunny all winter.
Yeah, it's just weird. I live in the South, but no, I can't have southern weather in February or March. Actually, early March. Right now, it should be getting springy, but it's not. So
I'll just tell you, vitamin D is your friend.
yeah.
We know this in the Pacific Northwest. Vitamin D supplements, local shop, get those. Just make sure they actually have vitamin D in them, because apparently 80% of supplements don't actually have what they're supposed to have. That was an amazing stat.
I thought you had to get your vitamin D from the sunlight. That the artificial, the pill form just wasn't. You didn't get as good of a.
I'll be honest. It helps. I mean, I take a lot. I take 4,000 units, but it makes a big difference up here in the Pacific Northwest.
All right. Well, I may have to add that to my diet, because I'm telling you, I haven't seen the sun in like 3 or 4 days. So let me ask you a question. I can't speak for you. I can tell you this has been a great. The last week and this week has been good for me, because I finally got a contract. I'm writing another book. I'd had a dry spell. Had a dry spell for a really long time, and I'm cranking out chapters faster than ever, because I guess I'm so like hungry to write. It's coming out. But I wanted to ask you, because I haven't had a chance to ask you. You had mentioned to me last week that you were thinking about starting to look out for some agents, maybe.
Yeah, I've been querying agents kind of off and on this winter, and frankly, a week ago, you got me a quote from Jack McDevitt, who graciously agreed to look over my work, and he was able to just give me a quote about it that was fantastic. Called the writing professional and the characterization strong, and even said that he thought I had a bright career in front of me. So I grabbed that quote from the email that you sent me, and I have used that as the lead-in to my query letter. Have a plan to query 80 agents, and just keep querying for a day until I get to 80 agents. That's and not stop.
Well, I
don't want to think, right? I don't want to think about it. I just want to do it. I don't want to ask questions. I don't want. As the negativity starts rolling in, I just want to keep moving. I don't want to stop. So.
Well, I hope these agents are. I hope they know who Jack McDevitt, because he is a friend of mine. He's here in Georgia, and absolutely, I loved his fiction before I met Jack, and before I became a friend of his. We've met numerous times, and we communicate via email. But Jack's fiction is, hands down, he's one of my favorite writers. And I love the fact that he read part of your story and gave you that feedback and said, hey, I like what I'm hearing. So good luck with that. I think hopefully they recognize Jack. And you need to remember, Jack just won the Robert Heinlein Lifetime Achievement Award.
Yeah, that's huge.
In the science fiction world. So, well, listen, in this episode, I think we're going to take it back to the 15, 20-minute time period. Last week we went a bit long, but we'll try to keep this one on track for time. But you wanted to talk about something that I felt was interesting, because I don't write this way. I write nonfiction. You write fiction, and you wanted to talk about emotions, on both sides of the table, the book and the writer, right?
Yeah. So I think that we have, in order to understand that, you have to step back to why do we read, which is the brain gives us some kind of vicarious experience when we're reading a book. So we feel what the character that we're identifying with feels. There's a really great critique that came out during Gamergate, where the argument from a guy who reviews movies as the Hulk. I don't remember which website he writes on. But he's a fantastic movie review. But he wrote a very long Gamergate response. And one of the things he did at the end I thought was really interesting, which is that after watching the Gamergate thing go down, he kind of felt like maybe fiction was actually causing a problem for us because maybe we were too much identifying with the fiction and thinking that we were brave, and then not paying attention to what we were doing in real life and how we were actually treating people in real life and the things we were actually doing to real people. But whatever that, which was really great for me as a fiction writer to kind of think through, okay, what am I creating in my audience? Like, what product? I am a person who's committed my life to being helpful to other people, and I want to make sure that the product I'm actually producing in the world is helpful. Whether, so I guess there's my ongoing question. Whatever is going on there, we are identifying emotionally with characters, which means that as readers, right? Which means as a writer, I also have to be willing to emotionally identify with what my characters are actually experiencing at that point. And that then gets more interesting and a little tougher when I am the god behind the universe, putting them in peril and torturing them and bringing circumstances into their lives that are very, very difficult. So that's where it gets interesting, I think, for the writer.
Well, I can speak from a reader point of view because I don't write fiction. You write it. So let's do this. I want to tell you, I guess I could look on my bookshelf real quick and tell you some names of some titles, but I have read science fiction books where I got angry, because I was so involved in a character. You get hooked on a favorite character over a series, and by book 3 or 4, all of a sudden the author decides it's time for that character to go, and it can make a reader a bit crazy.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, there are implicit promises you make as a writer to readers about what's going to happen, and when you break those promises, they can be fantastically angry with you, and that can be good as a writer. Sometimes it is the right thing to do. I mean, if we're thinking about life, one of the things that Mary Robinette Kowal said recently on Writing Excuses was none of us get to finish our own story arcs, right? Like in real life, life is not a neat narrative. Life ends in the middle for all of us. We're not done when it goes.
Yeah.
And so for most of us, right, most of us don't have the chance to say goodbye and all that stuff. So it's really, sometimes it can be very important to remind readers that the fantasy world they're living is not the way their life is really going to work, and sometimes an untimely death for a character that you don't expect, if you do it well and it has a story-driven purpose, can be really important. But to sell that, to get to the point for the writer, to sell that, I think you as a writer also have to be willing to hurt for the character at that point in time. Right? Like, it has to hurt you that you're doing it. I think one of the best examples, or one of my favorite stories about this that I tell a lot, is the story of J.K. Rowling walking out of the room and talking to her husband after she killed Cedric Diggory. Right? She walks out of the room and she's just bawling and like, I killed Cedric Diggory, I killed Cedric. And her husband's like, well, don't do it then. Seeing his wife just really, really upset. He's like, don't kill him. Just stop. And she's like, no, I have to. It's part of the plot. I've got to do it, right? But I think that willingness to be upset by what you're doing in a story to a character is important, right? I think your willingness to feel it. And I think the more willing you are to feel it, the more authentic the story can feel.
I wish I could remember the name of the author, and it'll hit me after we're done. But I read an interview with an author who said once that, and it was a male writer who said every time he killed off a character or a major catastrophe happened in his stories, he would get nauseous and have to go to the bathroom and throw up.
Yeah.
I read that when I was sort of an immature writer and I wasn't all involved in my own writing, and I thought, wow, that's really getting deep into your own stuff.
That's crazy.
Hey, listen, if a reader's going to get ill or angry over the loss of a character, I now understand how a writer can get that way too.
And if you are writing tragedy and you're willing to look at catharsis and you're writing something about an unfortunate person, a person that fortune is not favored, right? I think it is vital that you're willing to actually engage that catharsis yourself. I really do. So that's one area where this matters. I also think in the broader point, if you're having trouble with your characterization, so let's say you've got a novel done and you sent it out for feedback, and you're getting, yeah, your characters don't seem to work, or you're violating your characters all the time. This would be one really great place to check yourself. Is how much empathy do I really have for that character's plight, and for that person? How much respect do I have for that person? And with some characters this is easy, and with some characters this is not. My character Jack, there are a lot of readers who barely tolerate him at the beginning of Etna Adrift, and that's intentional, right? Like, I barely tolerate him at the beginning of Etna.
He is not a likable guy at many points.
He's not, right? I mean, he is.
He's a womanizer. He's a
womanizer, and more than a womanizer, he's fully involved in objectifying women, like very, very deeply. Like, every woman in that story is objectified. Maybe minus one, but that's a maybe, right? That's a maybe, and so that is a place where I think a lot of guys are going to sympathize a lot more easily than a lot of women, right? I think we're going to give him more benefit of the doubt, but I think that women, if they're honest, they may not objectify all men, but they know what it's like to objectify a man. And if they're willing to allow that to be true, they can understand Jack. They may not like him, and I'm not asking anybody to like him at the beginning. I'm asking you to empathize with him, which I think is an important point too. That liking and empathy are not different. Empathy is the ability to see from their point of view. It isn't having to agree with their point of view. It isn't having to accept their point of view. It's a willingness to understand, and not just understand it intellectually, but understand the emotions they're feeling. Yeah. So I had a friend of mine who happens to be a pastor, did prison ministry for a while, and he looked down the road one day, and he realized, he was teaching classes in the prison, and he looked down the road one day, and he realized he and 5 murderers were sitting on the same bench. And he also realized that he saw them as his friends. And he's like, how is that happening? And is that good? And is that healthy? And he had that moment of pause and the recognition that, no, I have done things in my life that I will always regret. I've never killed anybody. But I understand what it's like to have done things that I will always regret. And he knew these guys and knew that that was their attitude toward their past, right? And that's more empathy. That's empathy. It doesn't mean that I have to have killed somebody to empathize with a murderer. It means I have to understand the emotional landscape of regretting something or being in a place where you've done something that's shameful and knowing that response, if that's the way your murderer is responding. There are different kinds of murderers in stories.
Yeah. Well, you brought up Harry Potter, so I'll go ahead and tell you, this one. She did a really good job of having the readers initially with the character of Snape from book 1.
Yes.
You didn't like the guy, you didn't trust him, and
yes.
but then you started seeing Snape in a different light, and you started trusting him, and you believed that he had Harry's best interest and everything, and then in the very last book, and I'm sorry, big spoiler alert here, if you're watching and haven't read the Harry Potter series, turn it off right now. At the very end, she takes this character who has done this through the whole book series, and you're on a high line, and you think, oh no, Snape's going to show that he's the hero, and he kills.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. I don't know many books that I've read that's considered a young adult series or a children's series. Yep. I can't name any adult fiction books that I've read that have given me the same kind of emotional roller coaster ride as the Harry Potter series did.
All right, so I will say that I think I think that Harry Potter would never have reached the fame that it did, but would have been an eminently better series from a writer's point of view if she had written it from Snape's point of view.
Ooh, interesting.
Because by far he has the most interesting story arc in the whole series. In fact, he has really the least predictable and the most interesting story arc of any character in that world.
Damaged characters always make the best protagonists.
Thank you. Damaged characters as protagonists is by far more interesting to me. And she did try to damage Harry with the Dursleys. She did damage him somewhat.
Right.
But he's just not that complex in his response to that damage. Nor is he he's not very reactive. I mean, he's very reactive to his fate. We don't have a good reason that he's playing Encyclopedia Brown in the first 2 books. Because he does. He plays an Encyclopedia Brown nosy kid
who's the mystery. That's right.
Always solving the mystery. We have no good reason why he would be doing that.
Other than it makes good young adult fiction.
It does make good young adult fiction, but man, there's another story there. I would read it in a heartbeat if she did what Orson Scott Card did and went back and wrote Snape's story from a purely adult point of view. You know, sexuality included, all that stuff from an adult point of view that we really want to know about the Harry Potter world. Yeah. I would read that series and read it and read it and read it. It would be a fantastic book.
I'll bet you it has crossed her mind at some point. She won't do it. She'll never do it because I think the damage to the young adult series would I don't think she could go that route. But I bet you at some point she crossed her mind of thinking, man, I ought to write just a short story or a standalone novel from some of my other characters' points of view.
I would get me inside Snape's head, and I think I could fall in love. That's a beautiful, beautiful place to be.
Hey, listen, we're out of time, man. It always goes quick. I always look at the clock and go, man. You know what? I really enjoyed talking with Matt Forbeck last week. So,
yeah, it was fun.
I'm hoping we're going to be able to get him back. I'm sure we will.
And we've got a whole slew of Geek Dad authors who are just
a bunch of other authors who want to come on and talk, and so we'll get them on board. We'll have to line them up and get them shoot in. But well, listen, good luck with your finding an agent. I'm really crossing my fingers.
It is time. It's time to do that. It's the right time in my career. I have the momentum, and I have the right people saying the right things. So we're up querying agents.
All right. Well, listen. Same time again next week, right?
Sounds good. Look forward to it.
All right. Have a good week, Eric.
All right. Take care. Bye.